At PanM360, I'm Alain Brunet, and I have the great pleasure to interview Jason Sharp and Kaie Kellough regarding a very promising program presented at FYEAR Center, Centre FYEAR, on October 16. I'm talking about FYEAR, and Jason and Kaie are the lead artists of a big band. Well, not a big band, but a large ensemble, including poet Kaie, Tawhida Tanya Evanson, also a poet and writer, violinist brothers Jesse Zubot and Josh Zubot, the pedal steel and excellent improviser and composer Joe Grass, the drummer Stefan Schneider, Tommy Crane on drums, and also the visual approach, the visual design, and the video performance will be done by Kevin Yuen Kit Lo. Now it's your turn to describe the approach. Jason could start, and Kaie would add the poetic and all the literature approach.
Sure thing, yeah. Well, Kaie and I have been working together for a long time as a duo ensemble, and we've developed many different pieces in that configuration. And through that work, we led to these ideas of expanding the orchestration to bring in these very influential musicians in my life, and cross paths with Kaie as well. And so the duo ensemble expanded to the 8 musicians on stage, including the visual artist Kevin with projections. And we basically, I conceived of the arrangements largely as 2 quartets. So all the instrumentation is doubled across the stage, left and right. 2 drummers, myself and Joe Grass are counterpoints. And then there's the 2 violinists, Josh and Jesse, and the 2 poets. And we're kind of facing each other on stage, and most of the music has been written around different permutations that are possible with that orchestration. And it's just been a joy to work with people that we've known for a long time and know their vocabulary so intimately.
Mm-hmm. Kaie, the relationship between spoken words, poetry, and improvised music, and also all kinds of avant-garde expressions with music and sounds. Well, it happened since the 50s, and now almost 70 years after, there's a big evolution, but the relationship is still alive. So with this very close work with Jason, you developed a language, a common language, and now we are about to put poetry and spoken word with a larger ensemble. So how do you see this progression?
It's a good question, and I like the resume you did of the combination of sort of oral delivery of poetry and musical accompaniment, or the words accompanying the music, however you want to put it. One of the things that's happened is that the text for this piece sort of develops along with the music. So Jason will often ask me to write in specific ways and to come up with specific kinds of passages that do certain things within the context of the music. And what I like is that I feel with this piece, the text is really woven into the music, and the music is there in the text as well. So there's a kind of relationship where they talk to each other, and one kind of informs the other, and one gives voice to the other, that I really like in this. And one of the unique things about this is that there are 2 poets working in duo poets. We work together, we kind of speak together, we exchange a lot of passages with one another.
It's a B2B, like electronics DJ sets.
Yeah, it is. And it's really nice to be able to do that, because I think it adds another dimension to the delivery, just that there's another voice that's going to say things differently. So you can think of the 2 voices in contrast to each other, even though they're also working together. So.
And also this blend of genres, at first glance, we would associate Jason Sharp with contemporary jazz, free improv. After you explored electronics as a solo artist, but also with in other contexts, like with Dust Owls, for example, with many other musicians. And so now we're about to gather poets, but also performers and music that played with many people and went through great experience. For example, Zubot with Tanya Tagak, or Joe Grass was doing the Lhasa show, Lhasa de Sela tribute last week, and he's involved in so many different projects. And also Tommy Crane and Stefan Schneider have been involved in all indie bands in Montreal, so etc., etc. So this project, how do you see this blend of drone, out jazz, metal, post-classical, electronic, and spoken words?
Well, we definitely assembled an A-team to accomplish the blend of all those said genres. I don't think the choice of blending those specific genres was a deliberate one. Really, we began with the subject matter, and as we started developing the piece, as I was writing, you're creating a narrative to a full experience, in that the piece is broken up into separate parts, but it's really one continuous piece essentially. And so in that narrative, we go through these different backdrops to emphasize the tone of the text and the vocal delivery. And just in an organic process, we ended up finding ourselves moving into metal and ambient and electronics to create a contrast to those type of experiences. There's 12/8 groove that is used to really give a grounding to the piece and a forward momentum as we kind of race towards the end. There's different kind of tactics to ping the vocals back and forth to create a rhythmical kind of centerpiece, while the band is able to improvise around that. So that moves us into some free jazz kind of territories. So it was all kind of genres that emerged out of trying to solidify a narrative around the subject matter.
Name dropping of genres just come after it's done. It's not a plan. It's never a plan.
Of course.
It just emerged from the unconscious, and it happens when it happens. That's it. After, we can pinpoint some genres or try to have a view about the structures and the forms. But just before, of course, good artists never think this way. They don't have a grocery list about what they want to do,
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's contrived otherwise.
Yeah, and also in this bigger maelstrom, Kai, there will be. Is it hard for the voices to make their path into this big sound?
Sometimes it can be, yeah. I mean, with this big, especially with drums, right? And a big saxophones, you have to be loud. But I think the musicians are sensitive to the position of the voices in each section. So, we're able to work together to make sure that the voices do have a clear path through.
And also, the work from Kevin Yuen Kit Lo is quite important to do a sort of immersive experience, which happens more and more now in any kinds of musical or poetic or whatever live performance.
Yeah, it is. Kevin's work is really important because one of the things that we wanted to incorporate was visual work, but in a way that it wasn't decorative. So the work was also, just like the text is integrated with the sound, we wanted the visual work to be also deeply integrated with the music and with the text. So what happens is that Kevin's visual work, Kevin's also a type designer, and he deals a lot with, he works closely with the letter forms and the shapes of language. So he draws his projections from the text that we have, and he sort of aestheticizes the image of the text, but breaks it and fragments it and moves between legibility and illegibility. And he's also created a sort of visual composition that follows the contours of the music and the tone of the music.
So it's a part of this piece. It's not a sort of surrounding contribution. It's really into the piece.
Yeah, it's embedded in the piece and kind of seamed through.
Embedded is a good word. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and well, you probably expect differences between recording and live performance. There will be different way of expressing yourself.
Yeah, the live performance is a very exciting experience with this particular ensemble. I would say the piece was initially conceived as a staged live performance, and it took some creativity to be able to contain all those sounds in the studio environment and document them and put them on the record. And through that process, there was a lot of things that were learned and some additional sounds that were brought into that studio process, which is kind of an exciting thing for us now to be going back on stage with the piece, which is the first time since the record has come out, that we'll be able to integrate some of those components back into that live experience. And you know, the piece is actually very, very composed, but at all times there's room for improvisation within each section, and every section is not at a set duration, and I'm cueing us, as you know, through the piece as the tension and release kind of reveal themselves. So it always remains a very dynamic experience, and because, you know, the people that are in this particular ensemble, it's very rare for us to be able to come together. And I'm on the West Coast now, along with the Zubots who are out here as well. So it's a thrill just to be able to assemble and dive into it.
Yeah, that would be a good opportunity to record the whole show with this visual approach included. Do you think about that?
Well, the initial conception of the piece was actually a commission during the pandemic period of time, which we're perhaps still in. But yeah, it was for a live stream broadcast for Jazz Ahead as Canada's contribution to that conference, and so we did do a visual documentation of that captures Kevin's visuals. But that was the initial inception of this piece, and certainly it's evolved considerably and since then. So yeah, maybe there's an opportunity.
A second take would be very good too, and different.
Yeah, that early one was done, I think 2020, was it? Summer 2020 at the Lion d'Or.
Oh, Lion d'Or.
At the Lion d'Or, yeah. So I mean, it was the height of the pandemic. So I think everyone was a little bit nervous, but you know, it was you know, the performance would have been different from this one because we were performing to an empty venue, right?
Well, have you performed many times with this ensemble, or just a few times?
It's as I said, it's a difficult one to assemble this cast of players, and so it is. I would say it was just a few times. We did performed for Suoni, La Sala Rosa, and we did Send and Receive in Winnipeg, and we played Moors Festival in Germany, and we left Moors and went directly into the recording studio from that.
Send and Receive was without the violins, though.
Yeah, Send and Receive, we didn't have the Zubot brothers with us at that stage, so that was an earliest rendition. So just a handful of times, you know, and like I said, it's evolved certainly through the process of recording the record. So it feels, and somehow it still feels like the beginning, one of the very first times. And so
we're looking forward to attend this FYEAR concert at the Centre Phi on October 16th. Thanks a lot, Kaie and Jason, to have explained a lot about your process of creation since a few years with FYEAR. That's an excellent accomplishment, and we're looking forward to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.